Don't call it a comeback.
Football is back.
Yeah, and we have one of football's best podcasters and one of the greatest centers of all time joining us to talk about all of it. Spoiler alert, it's the same person.
From Wondery, I'm Ryan Shazier.
And I'm Dave Damashek.
And this is Don't Call It a Comeback.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Can't call it a comeback. Everybody to your feet, make arenas rise. Yeah, I'm saying from the left to right, we get it on tonight. We do it all, but we don't back down. Just give me one shot, one chance, I'ma take it. Fixing up the game, but these records I keep on breaking.
Shek, I know Jason Kelce is here today, but before we get to that, I know you owe me $100. Also, we got to talk about what went down this weekend and what's coming up this next weekend.
Well, apparently your memory went down a little bit. Yes, it was embarrassing if you are an Ohio State fan to watch that, what happened in Bloomington, Indiana. Boy, the Buckeyes should beat up on the poor Hoosiers. They failed to do that. They won by a mere 20 points. Either way, it's moot. We didn't bet on that game. We bet on your Buckeyes winning over 10.5 games. I said they'll go under, and I now feel very confident that that's the way it's going to go in what appears to be a rugged Big Ten.
Yeah, you're right about that. I'm sorry.
The big story of week one is the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders. They upset ranked TCU. They were big underdogs and put the college football world on notice. 5-0. Are the Buffs already officially back by virtue of that one victory?
To me, I think they're back as in a team that's relevant, a team that's ranked, a team that can compete. But to me, I still think that them winning over 6 games is still a bit of a stretch. I think that it's a lot for us to learn. And the one thing about week one in college football, unlike the NFL, and especially with some teams, you really just don't know how good your team is. Like, for instance, Alabama, they played a smaller team. Georgia played a smaller team. While Ohio State played Indiana, and people say Ohio State didn't look well, but Indiana's a conference opponent. They actually know what we like to run. They know what we like to do. The same thing with Clemson. Everybody thought Clemson was going to go in there and beat up on Duke, but Duke was a team that was there. They've actually went to ACC championships before. So the same thing with TCU. TCU only kept 3 people from the national championship team. Obviously, Colorado brought in a bunch of new guys as well, but to me, we don't know how good this TCU team is, but I can definitely tell you that Colorado has some ballers and that they should be in the conversation of being back in college football, and people can't just, we're playing Colorado today, this is an easy dub.
Well, obviously, I agree with that. Top heavy, probably the 3 best players we saw last Saturday on the field against TCU were all Buffaloes, and one of them was playing on both sides of the ball. I worry, though, because I always say if you actually needed preseason games, NFL, then the college kids would play them too. But the takeaway from this one is don't schedule any halfway decent team because you can get got and it can scuttle your entire season if you're a college football team. Look at now LSU. They're really behind the 8 ball after getting hammered by Florida State. So too is TCU. The dreams of a repeat Cinderella season are already on life support. And as you say, even the Buckeyes got a little bit of a test from a conference foe. Maybe you are better off just scheduling Tennessee State or Portland State or one of those. But either way, impressive stuff from Deion Sanders, his son Shedeur. A school record, 510 yards and 4 touchdowns. What a debut from him. Travis Hunter maybe has a better game. We can quibble about who had the more impressive Heisman offering for the voters. Maybe the answer is both of those kids will be there come December. But Travis Hunter, both sides of the ball, 11 receptions, making that dynamic pick that he made. TCU, like you said, was ranked 17th coming into this one. And overall, the Pac-12 looks good. They're undefeated in their farewell to college football season. Impressive stuff. Bottom line, I'm excited and ready to roll. Do you think, Shazier, though, very quickly, that the world at large, the college football, the old school institutions and coaches and everything are resentful of Deion Sanders as he seems to be positioning himself and what he's trying to do in Colorado? I don't necessarily think anyone's outwardly rooting against that, although everybody loves to put a chip on their shoulder, including primetime. How say you?
I think a lot of teams are not resentful of him. I think it's more they're scared because the thing about Deion, unlike a lot of these old traditional schools, is that he understands the wave of new talent, the wave of young talent that's coming in, and how to recruit them, what they like. And he knows how to throw the flashy stuff in their face, but still also coach them like a top 10 coach. And I think that scares a lot of teams like the Alabamas, like the Georgias, like the Ohio States. And I'm not saying that he can compete with those guys right now, but with him showing all that in Colorado, because Colorado used to be an old powerhouse. So with him being able to have that back in there and showing that, hey, we can do this anywhere in the country and we can still have great talent, great coaching, and you can also have a little bit of fun. It's always good to have a coach that can relate to you. And when you think about college coaches, a lot of times there's not a lot of coaches that can relate to a player when it comes to college football. They're young men, and some of them like flashy stuff, some of them don't. But Coach Prime can relate with pretty much every kid that's in his locker room. Luke Fickell can relate because he also played D1. Marcus Freeman can relate. But when you think of Urban Meyers, when you think of Nick Saban's, obviously you understand what type of coach they were, and Ryan Day. But when it comes to relating to those guys on a player standpoint, it's a little bit harder for them to relate. So I can see how it can scare them. I'm not saying it does scare them, but I can see how it can scare some of these other coaches.
Oh, Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers are suddenly scared if they weren't already. But enough about the amateurs. Let's talk about the bigs, the NFL I'm talking about. The 104th season is just about here, Shazier. We made it through the long pigskinless summertime, and now we have a bunch of comebacks that we're all aware of. But what is the one you're most excited about here? Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, Lamar Jackson and a new-look offense. Can he find that MVP form from 2019? Sean Payton, can he resurrect his career as well as Russell Wilson's? How say you?
Man, this is a really hard one for me because everybody that you just named are all in the AFC. And so with them all being in the AFC, that attacks our team. You know, my team and your team is both the Steelers, you know, and you say them a little bit different than I say it. But to me, I think it's really difficult because I honestly want to see if, you know, the Eagles can come back and do the same thing they did last year. I want to see the 49ers. Like, the biggest return of the NFL I want to see is the Eagles versus the 49ers when both of them are all the way suited and booted. And I want to see what that game looks like, you know, because to me, I was waiting to see what that game looked like in the NFC Championship, and nobody really got to see what it looked like. And, you know, at the end of the day, the Eagles might have won. They were the best team, but at the end of the day, we never got to see it. So that's the game that I want to see this year. But if I had to choose out of the three that you've given me, I would probably say I would go with Russell Wilson because he's a good guy. Sean Payton's a great coach. And let's see if they can figure those things out because they have a great young core over there. Honestly, if Russell doesn't pan out and they go draft a young quarterback, they're primed for that type of situation if you really think about it. I'm not saying Russ over, but a young quarterback at that team, that's like the perfect place for him to go because, like, they're all about rebuilding right now, but you throw in Russell, so it's like now they're not rebuilding. It's like we're here, you know. But if you have a young quarterback in that system, all those young receivers they have, the young running back, they have a decent old line. When you think about their secondary, they have one of the best young secondaries. I think that's a really exciting team to me, is just to see Sean Payton and Russell Wilson work together. Let's see how that pans out.
Oh, and in the meantime, Derek Carr is now where Sean Payton used to be. Can he resurrect the back half of his career after the failed experience there in Vegas with the Raiders? DeMar Hamlin, everybody loves seeing him back. Calvin Ridley is back. Listen, I'm glad football's back, Shazier. Let's get into all of it with one of the more entertaining fellas in pro football, and in fact, outside of pro football as well. He and his brother, Travis, doing the very entertaining podcast, New Heights. Jason Kelce coming at you right after this break.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Can't call it a comeback. Everybody to your feet, make arenas rise. Yeah, I'm saying from the left to right, we get it on tonight. We do it all, but we don't back down. Just give me one shot, one chance, I'ma take it. Fixing up the game, but these records I keep on breaking.
Shek, let's get into this Jason Kelce comeback.
As you wish, 5-0. Yeah, Kelce has been the Eagles' man in the middle since 2011 when he became the first Eagles rookie ever to start all 16 games on the O-line. In 2017, Kelce earned his first-team All-Pro honors as the best center in football, and the Eagles won their only Super Bowl in franchise history.
For the Philadelphia Eagles, the long drought is over.
That Eagles Super Bowl run was Jason's coming out party to the national media, and he capped it off with a rousing speech at the parade.
Philadelphia! You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah!
Who could forget that? Yeah, the Eagles struggled for the next few years, but Jason continued his high-caliber play, and this past season, Philly made it all the way back to the Super Bowl. But as you may have heard, they couldn't get past the Chiefs, which includes Jason's brother, Travis.
You joke around all the time and say that you want to be your brother in the biggest stage ever, but it's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling, and that team had great leadership, great coaches. Obviously, it came down to the end, and we got all the respect in the world for those Eagles, man. But there's nothing really I can say to him other than I love him, and he played a hell of a year, a hell of a season.
We've got the 6-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first-team All-Pro, Super Bowl champion, and the host of an awesome podcast, New Heights, alongside his aforementioned Travis. I should mention that we recorded this just before news of Travis's hyperextended knee on Tuesday. We'll wait for updates on that. We don't get into that for obvious reasons then with Jason. Nevertheless, we really enjoyed this conversation. Here he is, Jason Kelce, here with us on Don't Call It a Comeback.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
I remember when I seen you a few months ago now, which is crazy, at NFL Broadcast Boot Camp, and we were just talking, and I remember you just decided that we're going to come back for another year, and to me that's it's just amazing. You're already a Hall of Famer in my books and pretty much everybody else's books. You can hang your cleats up right now. What made you come back for one more season, man?
Thought about it a lot. I've been on 1 year kind of deals for the last 3 or 4 years now. You thought about it. There's certainly things that it's a hard commitment to make to be able to come back and do it again. At least at this stage of my life and career, it's a big commitment. If you want to do it right and do it the way it should be done, it's one that I don't take lightly, and I want to make sure that I have enough to give the game and my teammates and city. So I think for me, though, the more I thought about it, the more it came clear. We were kind of on a shortened clock because of the way the season went the previous year, going to the Super Bowl. So, ideally you make that decision before free agency starts for the team. But the more I talked about it with my wife, my coach, loved ones, and people whose advice I appreciate, it ends up being the same thing that they've said for a couple of years. And one, I guess it's starting to become more ingrained, which is, if you have any doubt on whether you want to keep doing it, don't stop, man. I mean, if you really truly want to keep playing the game, don't let maybe, I don't know, the grind of it or the concerns of what it takes away from your family life or any of that other stuff, I guess, get in the way, because it's a short time window you got to do this. And once you're done, it's done. And there's no going, it's hard to come back after that. So, that was a big part of it. I still wanted to do it. And we're going to make it one more run at least.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to hear. I'm happy to see that, man. Because I remember we talked a few times in our pre-pod meetings, and just people all the time, and they ask me, about when I played, and unfortunately I had to stop early, and it's like, man, you see guys play for a long time like Ryan. Do you think they should stop? And I was like, man, like, my goal was to play for 17 years, man. Like, it's like, man, keep playing until you can keep playing, bro. Because once you're done, it's over, and
you wanted to play as long as possible.
Yeah, as long as I could, man. It's like, man, if it, like, you basically had to tell me, like, Ryan, you need to get the hell up off this field. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how long I wanted to play, man. And I'm just happy that I gave everything I had, until I stopped.
You sure did. I still remember the game plans trying to get ready for you and that Steelers defense. Stout. I mean, obviously we talked about this a little bit when we were out in Cali, but
Yeah.
Jeff Stoutland recruited you coming out of high school. I know it didn't end the way you wanted it to, or the way
Right.
Stout wanted it to,
Right.
but he's always like, I can't believe we didn't offer this guy this. Like, I knew he was a special player, and he just raved about you every single time we were getting ready to play you and Cam Hayward and all those guys. We knew we were in for a tough matchup. So, you definitely left it all on the field every single time you stepped out there. So, nothing but love and admiration for the way you played the game, Ryan.
No, I appreciate that, man.
Well, it's a mutual admiration, I guess, or, it's all of Football America has declared you and Travis the first couple of pigskin, at least, and podcasting is helping you guys really be breakout stars. But to be a little bit of a downer, what's your response to? You're coming back, but what about the 21st century history of the team that loses in the Super Bowl? How do you grapple with that? Yeah. Is that a completely irrelevant matter as far as you're concerned? Or does it matter because, like you said, your window of offseason is shorter by 2 weeks at least than if you had lost in the title game?
Losing a Super Bowl sucks. It does. It's not fun. It's, it sucks to go that long with a group of guys and a team and to not have that celebration, right? We were, in my opinion, that was not my opinion. It was certainly one of the best teams in the NFL last year. And a lot of things went right. We stayed healthy. It's so hard to get to that moment. Obviously the first time I went there, I was fortunate enough to win it. I didn't get to experience this side initially. And my brother, said something leading up to the season in another event that we were at on the radio at WIP in Philadelphia. And he said, losing a Super Bowl will never make you want to win one that much more. And I thought he was just saying something that sounded good to fans and people listening, like he's just doing his thing. And nah, man, he was 100% right. Like it creates a desire and a thirst to get back there and win it like you've never had before. Obviously, it doesn't work exactly. Just you can't just do hard work to get to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of pieces that need to fall in place. You got to have the right team, the right coaches. Everybody's got to stay healthy. There's so many factors that go into getting to that game. But yeah, I think that definitely is something that motivates you. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I never got that far, man. We always lost before we got to that moment.
You guys are close though, which is crazy. Yeah. I mean, with Big Ben, how many times were you in like either the AFC Championship game or like the divisional round when you were with the Steelers?
So there's only 1 year that we lost 1 year in the wild card, and then every other year was divisional or AFC Championship game, and it was ridiculous, man. Because the year I got hurt, we ended up losing in the divisional to the Jags, and then we ended up playing the year before that. We played the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, and I'll be honest, man. It'd be some fishy stuff that be happening in New England when you're playing in those kind of games, But hey, man, that's all I'm gonna say, man. But you know how cities are, man. It's like they try to put their own home field advantage into it, but it was crazy, man. But just like to see how far you guys have went, and I want to kind of dive into that because at the beginning of the season, obviously this is how every team is. Everybody kind of everybody's like, oh, nobody believed in us except us. At the beginning of the season, nobody truly believed in Jalen Hurts like you guys believed in Jalen Hurts. So what was it like when you first met him? Because he definitely has some comeback in him because, going from Alabama to Oklahoma to playing, getting drafted later to fighting for the job. Now he's the highest paid quarterback in the league. What was it like, when you first met him?
Well, when I first met him, obviously Carson Wentz was still the starting quarterback and he was drafted in somewhat of a controversial pick in the second round. So, he's brought into a situation that, is a little bit awkward, to be honest with you. I think most starting quarterbacks when they draft a guy in the second round aren't going to be too happy unless they're older and they're ready to get on with their career, which Carson certainly wasn't at that point in his career. But I love just observing new guys, whether it's, Jalen Hurts or any of the guys that we got this year, seeing what their temperament's like. I sat next to Jalen early on. It was an odd year because it was the COVID year. So I really didn't get to meet him and get to know him until we started getting rolling in the course of the season and training camp. But you could tell right away, there's a seriousness to him, but a very much, he's one of the guys, right? He can chop it up. He can be in the cafeteria. He's well liked by everybody. But he was pretty quiet and reserved when he first got there, and I think part of that is because of the situation in the room and with Carson and everything else. But you could tell from talking to the guy, from watching him go out there and practice, this is a highly competitive individual. This is a guy that is going to try and get better each and every day and take coaching and try and become the best at his craft as he could. And that was apparent from the moment I started snapping the ball to him in 7-on-7s. And you saw flashes of talent, right? You could see it right away when he's on the field. Everybody questioned his arm. I'm out there in 7-on-7 watching him put dimes on some of these go balls and get the ball out in good timing. And it's like, that's there. I don't know how to evaluate quarterbacks, right, but you can see it. I still remember vividly, Michael Vick behind me, and he had like this last little twist on the ball, and it came out of there like a slingshot. And Jalen doesn't have that, but he's got a way with throwing the ball that I think receivers like it. It's very catchable, and he can put it in a spot that they can go up and get it. He's got good placement on all that stuff. So all of that was apparent from day one. But then as he starts playing, you get to know his personality. You get to see him in games, how he handles pressure. And this dude, coolest cat in the room. I don't know if I've ever seen him truly rattled. You've seen him upset, right? You've seen him mad, but like at no times does he have this look in his eye like, I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like he's a very confident individual and confident in himself. And to go back to what you were just saying, Ryan, about him, going to Alabama, winning the starting job, getting benched, going to Oklahoma, becoming a starter again. This whole career arc that he's had, then being drafted into a room with a starter franchise quarterback and then being a starter just a year after that. Jeff Stoutland, same guy that we've already mentioned about the O-line coach for the Eagles. He always tells me he likes getting a guy that's had these ups and downs, right? Whether he was a walk-on in college or whether he changed positions at some point, a lot of the times when something goes down in a guy's career, you find out a lot about that guy, about how he responds to that adversity. And with Jalen, you knew you were getting a guy right away that had that hunger and desire and competitive fire to get back to the top, right? He did it in college. You kind of see it in Joe Burrow, right? Like a backup quarterback at Ohio State transfers to LSU and then all of a sudden becomes a perennial one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And, I consider the adversity I've had, and I think most guys should, a blessing in disguise. It sucks when you're going through it, but man, the traits that it forces you to have and to develop to be able to overcome that, I think is very, very valuable. And Jalen has utilized that at this level, and he's still utilizing it. We just went to a Super Bowl. He had one of the best Super Bowl games a quarterback has ever had. And this guy is still, every day trying to get better, hungry to improve. And I think that a lot of that has happened because of, he's been on the other side of that. He's been he's seen how quickly that can change. And I think the whole team feeds off of him. It always does at the quarterback position. It's a position by nature that you're going to affect everybody else on the field. And, we're really, really lucky to have a guy with that mentality, that makeup, and that set of skills at the helm for the Eagles.
He completely, obviously, deserves the big deal that he just got. But he's lucky to have you, and I mean you, as part of that O-line, nay, the line of scrimmage. Andy Weidel now moves over to the other side of the Keystone State to join Shazier and company in black and gold. And Howie has done gangbusters work, but it feels to me like the reason you mentioned Vic or Kevin Cobb or Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts or anyone else, It seems to me you guys have been relevant for at least a decade, primarily because Weidl maybe or whomever figured out load up, invest in both sides of the line of scrimmage. And it has yielded this bully ball kind of thing that's trying to be replicated in Pittsburgh and other places. How sustainable is that in the quarterback league, where just a couple of years ago it was all about Mahomes, downfield passes to Cheetah and so on?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to stop. It's always going to be a quarterback-driven league, and it's always going to be, if you want to win championships, it's going to be really, really hard to do that without a premier quarterback. You could still maybe get it done if you have an unbelievable defense like San Fran had last year and you have a decent enough quarterback. But if you want to be a perennial contender, you're going to have a good quarterback. I think having a good O-line and D-line, the way I like to think about it is a good O-line and D-line, it doesn't win you many games, but having a bad O-line and D-line will lose you a ton of games. Like, all we can do for the most part is facilitate a good situation for our playmakers to go out there and make plays. You still need to have playmakers to be a dynamic offense, but if you don't have the guys in front that can get it started, it's just going to be too inconsistent. It's not going to be effective against good D lines and good teams out there. And this is something the Eagles have believed in long before I got here. Andy Weidl certainly brought that over with them from Baltimore and what those guys are doing up there, where they've done that forever in the AFC North. I think that, Howie predating him, Andy Reid, the Eagles have believed in, three positions that entire time, or groups, I guess, right? O-line, D-line, and quarterback. And those are the ones they've invested in. They continue to invest in. And to them, if you have a good O-line and D-line and quarterback, you're going to be a contender pretty much every year. And I think it's a good model. I mean, I think a lot of other teams are going to keep trying to do that as well. So it's hard to figure out how you stay on top of it. But yeah, I think that, it's important, obviously, to have the trenches solidified, and then you can kind of get to whatever you need to get to, whatever the defense is giving you. You're not handcuffed by being one-dimensional. You're not handcuffed by just having to throw it to a big-time playmaker that a defense can adjust to. Let's be a balanced up group, and then whatever we're getting on the day, let's get to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, Jason. I don't say people are cheating, but I think Howie's over there cheating or scamming people or something. Because you say, like, man, you got to have a good O-line, D-line, but you guys have a good O-line, a D-line, a running back, quarterback, receivers, DBs. like, bro, it's like you guys have literally everything. You guys got everything that everybody wants over there. And one thing that's kind of crazy to me is because I remember when we talked about this before, and you was talking about the adversity that you went through. So when you first went to Cincinnati, you went there as a fullback, correct?
With fullback and linebacker, yeah. Really, I was more of a linebacker, but I was a fullback linebacker out of high school. So they were I was a walk-on. I was an athlete that they were looking at. Yeah. They gave me the number 60, so I should have seen the writing on the wall that I wasn't going to stay at linebacker or fullback very often. But yeah.
No, so like when you was at linebacker, fullback, like, and then they moved you to O-line. I know, like, obviously, like, that part of that was like a gut punch at first because you're like, man, this is not what I want to do. And the same thing with your brother. Like, y'all both were like at the wrong position, and now both of you guys are Hall of Famers at the right position. Like, do you think like that, like, a lot more players should think about transitioning from, like, one spot to another just for bettering their careers and stuff?
Without question. I think the vast majority of guys that have embraced position changes, it has fared out very well for them. And that might not mean playing in the league. Maybe it's just finding your way in the college team or finding your way in a high school team. Usually when a coach approaches you to change a position, it's because you're going from either an average or below average athlete at the position you're at to a superior athlete at the position they're trying to move you to. And in general, that's going to fare well for your production. For me, I was a 4.7 guy, linebacker. I was good at playing the run, could not defend the pass, or I had no idea what I was doing. I was like a fish out of water when it came into what zone I'm dropping into, or, how it's a 3x1. So I got to drop over number 3. And, what happens if he goes vertical and my carry, all that stuff I didn't know or have any clue about. And I didn't play the position long enough to figure it out. But when I got moved to offensive line, yes, very big gut punch. I still remember Paul Longo coming to me that winter conditioning, our strength coach. He says, you make a great center. And I'm like, get out. What are you talking about, man? Like, I'm 235 pounds. I'm not playing center.
Yeah.
And sure enough, a week into spring ball, they moved me to center. Like, hey, we want to try out here. Let's see what you got. And I'm a walk-on. So, I'm pretty much doing whatever they say, right? I'm not like, nah, man, I'm not doing this. I'm not being a part of this. I embrace it. I kind of, okay, whatever. We'll see how this works. I had a decent spring ball. They were like, we like what we see. We want to keep you there. And they offered me a scholarship if I would stay there. So for me, it was a no-brainer because, if it was going to get school paid for, and for me at that point, the NFL being a walk-on was not like the forefront of my mind. Just making the team and actually being a college player and getting a degree was the number one things that I was focused on. So, embraced it, and it could not have turned out better between, we had a great strength coach in Cincinnati, Paul Longo, and then I had a great initial offensive line coach in Jeff Quinn, and they taught me the position from the ground up. I knew nothing. Now, it did help me knowing a little bit about linebacker going, and I still utilize it, to this day, why is that linebacker stacking the three technique? Well, it's probably because they're, playing a shell back there. He's got both of these gaps of run away. He's feeding here, run two. Like, why is the backer out of the gap? Maybe there's a blitz coming over here. So I think that having played defense, certainly you understand basic structure and alignments and things like that. That helps me take that to the center position. But there's no question that embracing the position change, I probably would not be here today or in anywhere near this type of position if they wouldn't have made that decision.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you hear about a guy changing positions at age 19. It worked out beautifully for you. I always wonder how vexed is the kid who decided to go to that school, not as a walk-on. Like, yeah, we're gonna turn you into a fullback. Like, wait, I want to go to the NFL, and how much that sliding doors thing happens to him.
It worked out with my roommate. My roommate John Goebel was a running back. He switched to safety his freshman year and played a little bit of special teams, and he was hard pressed on playing running back. And he talked the next year's coaches into moving him back to running back. Had a good college career, but, never had really a chance at the pros. And I always wonder, if he would have embraced playing safety, does he have a chance? Because again, it's, I don't know.
Now with NIL, guys probably would bounce before making
it's way different now. Yeah. Completely different situation in college landscape now. I don't even know how you coach guys really. You got to be a good players coach. The days of the, rigorous, you're doing what you're told and, authoritative coaching. It's quickly coming to an end at the college realm, but I don't know. Yeah.
Shek, I don't know if you knew this, but I also, coming out of high school, also changed my position too. So yeah, one thing I think about.
I'm trying to think what you would have been. A tight end?
In high school? In high school, my whole time in high school, I played DN. So
DN.
Yeah. So Florida, the O-linemen aren't as big as in Ohio and and Pennsylvania and stuff. But I was running a 4.4 off the edge at DN in high school. You're just literally running around it.
There's a lot of sex.
Yeah, you just literally running around everybody. And Ohio State's like, man, we want you to play linebacker. I think another reason that a lot of the guys do so well when they transition, because you're literally learning the whole time. Like from little league to high school or college, most guys are so used to this is how the position is played. But when you go to another position, it's like you're learning it the whole time. So it took me 3 years to get to the NFL, but in 3 years, you're still learning the position. So while I'm in the league, I'm still learning how to play linebacker.
I can't tell you how much I wish when I played linebacker that I knew what I know now playing. I wish I knew. When I was playing linebacker, if it was gun, I wasn't like, oh, the ball's coming over here if they run it because the running backs, none of that stuff even crossed my mind.
Right.
And what's the strength of the formation and what runs they do out of this formation and that formation. I didn't think like that. I was just hey, see ball, get ball. I'm not really overthinking this. I'm going to hit whatever comes in this hole.
Yeah.
And, how much better I would have been as a linebacker knowing what a center does and how they operate, or a running back. But yeah, I agree. It causes you to think about the game much more holistically, and you learn the entire structure of everything better having played multiple positions, and it helps you play any position.
Well, listen, I'd love to see 5-0 line up at OLB. Imagine you on the edge there. I mean, the Steelers never have been able to replace you many years later, and they continue to struggle in that regard. But you coming off the edge, adding to the OLB tradition of black and gold. But you know what? Enough about Bearcats, because we could go about how the Bearcats are catching up on the Buckeyes in the perennial. Not bad. I mean, you guys can't beat Michigan, so
my gosh!
I'm not. Well, that's not crazy. That's just a statement of fact. I'm trying to turn the page here to pro football, Shazier, if you'll allow me to.
You go.
Now, listen. This is what I want to. This is what I want to say. See, the Eagles are the NFC powerhouse, and you mentioned. I mean, for a quarter century, no big time team has won any title anywhere without saying no one outside this locker room believes in us. But it officially must end with the Philadelphia Eagles. Who doesn't believe in the Philadelphia Eagles this year when your competition chief in the NFC would seem to be the Niners going into this season? So how do you motivate, given that you are the heavy favorite?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Niners are the other big team, but our division is tough. It's going to be NFC East last year was one of the better divisions in football. Surprisingly, because the previous 2 years it was one of the worst in football, but the Giants have reloaded, retooled, new coach, and they look to have gotten better. Dak Prescott's a year older. The Cowboys are certainly going to be contenders as they were last year. Washington, obviously, the only thing they're missing really is a quarterback. If you look at their defense, they're in almost every game because of how good Rivera and that defensive line and front play. They just can't get over the hump. So, it's going to be a hard division to come out of. And I know that, last year there are actually quite a bit of teams or quite a bit of people that liked the Eagles. I don't know that anybody liked us to go to the Super Bowl. Not a lot of people thought much of Jalen at the time. Now they think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, as he's proved that over at least last year. So, our message last year, man, I do not listen to the outside noise. Don't listen to the outside noise telling you how good you are. Don't listen to any, all that is, in Nick Saban's word, that's rat poison, man. Anybody trying to tell you how good you are is not helping you one bit. You got to be focused on getting better each and every day. Everything we did last year doesn't mean anything for this upcoming season. We are starting at ground zero. We don't have any wins yet. And it's going to take that focus each and every week, each and every practice, each and every day, if we want to deserve to be in that game again, as well as, staying healthy and some luck things along the way. So, we fully are preaching that message. That was a message we preached last year. We're not changing that up. Nick Sirianni likes to use the reference of, we're climbing a mountain and, we're at sea level right now. We're not even, we're not even close to looking all the way up at that thing. We're just focused on this first phase. And, I think that we got enough veteran guys to continue to push that narrative and to continue to push the young guys' energy and channel that in the right direction, that I think we'll handle that just fine.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Can't call it a comeback. Everybody to your feet, make arenas rise. Yeah, I'm saying from the left to right, we get it on tonight. We do it all, but we don't back down. Just give me one shot, one chance, I'ma take it. Fixing up the game, but these records I keep on breaking.
Hey, Jason, I love watching y'all team. Besides when everybody's pushing Jalen Hurts in the back. But I
like that play.
I love watching y'all team because you can definitely see that y'all are a blue. It's like a blue. Y'all built y'all team kind of based off of y'all city. It's like a blue collar team, blue collar city. We're gonna punch you in the mouth and we're gonna get it every single rep. And it's even adding AJ Brown, he's that type of football player. It's
yes.
I love that about you guys. But I want to ask you one thing about yourself, and when do you feel in your career, that light switched on? You was oh snap, I could be, I'm like one of the better guys at my job. Like, when do you feel like, oh snap, like I became, oh, now I'm a Pro Bowler? Because it's always some point in your career when you feel like, oh man, like this is I have to start doing this, and I see the progression because I know with myself. Like, I started waking up early, going in to watch film at 6 a.m. I start asking more questions
Yeah.
to my teammates. I started to actually like do more rehab and spend more money on rehab compared to when I was at first. And like, when do you feel like that switch flipped on for you?
As far as, being one of the better centers in the league, I think that kind of flipped on when Chip Kelly first got to the Eagles. In 2013, I had a really, really good year. We had just welcomed Jeff Stoutland to the O-line room, and it just felt like everything was clicking and running really, really well. Now I was humbled, about 3 years after that, pretty good. I had a down year, but I think that was, I, you know, before you go out there and do it and you're doing it at a high level, it's all kind of like theoretical. You have confidence in yourself, you believe in yourself, but until you're out there and you've accomplished things or you've done things that you think are among the best of your peers in your business, I think that it's all just kind of a dream or, in your own head. And then, so once you finally do it, it kind of feels like it's been cemented and you're up there with the top class of guys in your position. Um, and then like, as far as like being a professional, like going in early, getting treatment, watching more tape, I had a good offensive line coach right from the get go in Howard Mudd, who was on me with watching tape. And I think that taught me how to watch tape. I met with Jeff Saturday that off season. And I had a lot of, and he had me watching tape on Marquise Pouncey, the guy that you know really well. Yeah. That was one of the guys that he loved early on when I started playing. He thought he was the future of the NFL. He turned out to be right. Marquise did it for over a decade, at a higher level than just about anybody. And, I think, you just try and draw as many different ways to improve your game as possible. But that was early on. And then as far as like treatment, man, I'm not going to lie to you. I am notoriously terrible at taking care of my body. I don't go into the training room very often unless I have to. I've been talked into getting massages now as my body starts to break down. I'm getting more massages later in my career. I'm doing more of like the soft tissue work in the weight room than I've ever done because out of necessity.
Yeah.
Like, it's not because I want to, I just kind of have to. So I guess I've been forced into that one a little bit more. So yeah, I think a lot of it is, I don't know. I don't know that there was any one particular light switch where it's like, man, I got this whole thing figured out now. Look out, world. It's kind of been more of a, hey, I think this works. I think that works. I'm going to do things this way. And that's kind of still happening in some regards.
Why don't you tell Sirianni and everybody else? Listen, I'm a veteran. I don't need, because I always think it would be great to be a pro football player, except for training camp. That's got to be the worst. And that heat and everything. Why don't you just say, I need a month of massages. I know what I'm doing out here. I'll see you guys. Get DeAndre Swift. I don't want to lean up against Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis for a month long. I got to stay right for the season. How would that go over?
Well, if I explained it that way, it probably wouldn't go over very well. I think maybe if I went over it, let's preserve my health for the season and things like that, maybe I get a little bit more.
Try.
I'm actually, Shek, I'm honestly extremely lucky in Philadelphia. We have some of the more forward-thinking coaches when it comes to rest and rehabilitation. I don't go 3 days in a row ever. They never make me do 3 practices in a row. They give me, plays off at practice. The benefit is physically I feel better. And at this point in my career, it really does make a difference. I was very resistant to this stuff early on when they first started, telling me, hey, you should take Wednesday off. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I could be ready on game day or if that's going to be the right way to do it. But then when you actually try it out and you see how much better you feel as a result, I've become a believer in a lot of the sports science behind rest and recovery, especially for older players. But I think, one of the things, you can't just take it all off, obviously. I mean, I would love to. I did take all the training camp off last year because I had elbow surgery. Worked out all right, but
Just tell people you had elbow surgery again.
Again,
They won't know.
right?
What are they going to do? Check. What are they going to do?
I don't know if it worked like that shit.
but I was also had Isaac Seumalo and Landon Dickerson, had 2 new guys. Right now we're going to be going through a right guard battle in this training camp with Cam Jurgens, Steen, Sue Opeta, some other guys. There's going to be some familiarity getting used to that, and that's one of the important things about O-line. And the other thing, I guess, fortunate, I certainly like that the center has to do this, but whenever you're in a position of communication, even though you know it, your players that you're playing next to, and the communication has to be down so that everybody knows what you're saying. And there's the playbook way of communicating, and then there's just like familiarity way of communicating, right? Like there's a call, but then everybody kind of gets a familiarity with each other. And you could even just sometimes and a guy might even know what you're saying. It's hard to, I guess, explain more than, the only way you get that down is by having the reps with the guys, and guys used to hearing how you say things and communicate things. So, that's one of the other reasons you got to be out there.
Yeah, Shek, I remember, when we was at the Steelers, and it would be times Coach Tomlin was like, "Hey, Ryan, you might not have to practice, but I need you to stand in the back and still communicate with the guys as if you are practicing." Because it's just at the end of the day, like it could be the littlest thing. Somebody could be rushing and you're talking to a DB and you just go like this and he knows you're talking about cover 4. Or you could
exactly.
Or you could just look at a guy and be like, "Hey, oh, this blitz is supposed to be for me, but Vince, you take the blitz and I'm just gonna cover this guy." Like just little things like that. When your backup guys, sometimes the second or third team guys, they'll come in the game and like, "Yo, we're not supposed to do that." It's like, no, we already have this down pack. Like, we understand. Like, hey, in this situation, you can't cover this guy. I can. You might have a better blitz. You might be better blitzing than me. So I'm gonna let you take it. So like. The coaches and the players, they understand how you can manipulate the system, not manipulate it, but evolve the system a little bit more. And like you said, that comes from reps, man. So, man, Jason, man, honestly, I just want to say, man, I really appreciate you joining us today, man, because, man, you and your family is awesome, man. And I hope this year you get to give your brother a little bit of payback.
That'd be great. I still haven't beat him yet in the NFL, so getting one this year would sure mean a hell of a lot. Honored to be on here, Ryan and Shek. It was such an honor to play against you, Ryan, and to now do a podcast with you. So thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, big fan of your podcast, obviously. Big fan of your producer, TD. He and I work together. Big fan of Travis. Right. Next time, maybe we can talk about how did 2 siblings become so far apart in terms of fashion? In terms of fashion alone. It's wild, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I think some of it is just, when I was a little bit younger, my family was still trying to climb the corporate ladder, had a little bit less money. So I went to Walmart and got the Skechers and stuff like that. Whereas Trav got the new basketball shoes whenever he was in season, and he's kept that through for sure.
Man, everybody who pays attention to football, and even people who didn't, everybody got to know your parents for that week, and it was clear how much it meant to you and Travis, maybe even more than who got the ring at the end of it. I don't know, but maybe you'll get the ring at the end of 2023 or early 24. We're rooting for you. Impossible to root against you.
All right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that, Shek.
Oh, what a time with Jason Kelce. Thanks so much to him for joining us today. And we still have some business to tend to here, 5-0. It's time to check some other comeback stories in the news. This is the Check Down. Shazier and I are going to cover one comeback story from the news this week. 30 seconds on the clock to break it down. 5-0, you all set?
Let's go.
All right, Beyonce returned to L.A. to perform her Renaissance Tour concert at SoFi. Meanwhile, Ted Lasso, Leo DiCaprio, Caleb Williams, Selena Gomez, Tyga, Magic Johnson, and even Prince Harry were out watching Messi play in L.A. Which of these stars would actually make you starstruck there, Shazier?
The people that would make me starstruck out of this group, so I've met Magic Johnson before. Caleb Williams is a football player, so I don't think I'll be really starstruck. Prince Harry, that would be kind of cool to meet a prince. But in this one, I think it would probably be Leonardo DiCaprio because he's such an amazing actor. And he's done so much in the community, and I'd just love to probably meet him. But maybe Messi, honestly. Messi's probably the main one.
listen, you might have some language barriers between you guys. I'm going with you. You beat the timer, too. Congratulations there, Shazier. I'm going to go with Ted Lasso. I'm not intimidated meeting athletes, but deeply funny people, that's another matter. So, yeah, I'll go with Ted Lasso here. Although, listen, DiCaprio, when it's all said and done, he's going to be our generation's De Niro / Pacino, I think, right? So that would be pretty cool to have a photo or glad hand with the guy in his physical prime when you look back when he's an aged old man and getting a Lifetime Achievement Oscar, to look back and say, I knew him back when. That's my answer to that one, Shazier.
I don't know if it's, consider I knew him if he just like took a picture together.
No. We know each other. We're good friends now. Me and DiCaprio.
But I doubt you get through this one in 30 seconds. You're a little bit longer winded than I am. So it took people much longer to come back from Burning Man than anticipated. Rainfall in Vegas desert closed the roads for the music festival, leaving people stranded out there. If you were stuck anywhere in the world, is Burning Man the place to be stuck or the worst place to be stuck?
A lot closer to the worst. I mean, the desert? Who would want to be stuck out in the desert? Don't they make movies about that? Being a bad hand to get dealt is suddenly you find yourself out in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, that would have to be near the bottom of the barrel. I wouldn't want to be on the precipice of a volcano because I've seen movies where that doesn't work out. Also, like 30,000 leagues under the sea in a submarine. A lot of movies about how that's bad news. But yeah, I think it's on the short list. How say you, Shazier? Where would be the worst place to be stuck, aside from talking to me right now?
I knew you weren't going to reach the timer, which you didn't, but I would say I don't think that's the worst place to be stuck because Burning Man is like right near Las Vegas, isn't it? So if it's the desert and I can't go to Vegas, I don't want to be there. That's probably the worst. But if I can get close to Vegas, I'm going.
Okay, so you wrap that up nice and tidy. Meantime, NL MVP candidate Ronald Acuna Jr. became the first player ever to record a 30 home run, 60 stolen base season. He did it on Friday with a grand slam in LA against the Dodgers. He also got married on that same day. This came after a disappointing 2022. Ended with his ACL tear. He was trying to come back from that. What else could he have done to make last Friday more dramatic than it already was in his comeback there, Shazier? Marriage, grand slam, history, making statistics.
I don't think there's much more he could have done in this moment to make that day any better. Like the only thing he could have made that day any more dramatic was he got married, but then his wife also had a kid on the same day. So it was his birthday. So like, imagine he did all this stuff on the same day, and I don't know. I just can't like it. He just did so much amazing things in one day. I just think adding a baby would probably be the most dramatic thing.
I mean, I will say, if you've ever seen that movie Old, all those things do happen, not just in a day, but in the course of like an hour. You can get married, you can have a baby, the baby will grow up. Maybe that's what we need to see some of that. But yes, Mazel Tov to the Acunas on their blessed day. Maybe getting divorced on the same day. That would be something. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I don't wish that on anybody, Shek.
All right, that's you. That's you, Shazier. Well done. That's why. See, yin and yang. Shazier and Damashek. Well done there, and another great episode.
Hey, make sure to follow, rate, and review the show on wherever you're listening. Also, check us out on YouTube on the Wondery channel so you don't miss an episode. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. See you all next week.
And you'll get your $100 at the end of the season if the Buckeyes win 11 games. If.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been waiting on this moment my whole life. Can't call it a comeback. Everybody to your feet, make arenas rise. Yeah, I'm saying from the left to right, we get it on tonight. We do it all, but we don't back down. Just give me one shot, one chance, I'ma take it. Fixing up the game, but these records I keep on breaking.